Ladies and gentlemen, our keynote speaker currently serves as the District Attorney for County of San Luis Obispo. He was first elected as District Attorney on June 3, 2014, and assumed office on November 7, 2014. He was re-elected again on June 5, 2018, and June 7, 2022 for 4-year terms. Shortly after high school, he enlisted into the U.S. Army. After his initial obligation, he enrolled in college. He received a bachelor's degree from the California State University in Hayward and further received a Juris Doctorate from the Santa Clara School of Law. He currently holds the rank of Lieutenant Colonel as a reserve officer in the California National Guard. He has had multiple tours of duty, including Operation Iraqi Freedom, Operation New Dawn, Operation Enduring Freedom. He continues as a citizen soldier in public service as district attorney, where he seeks to bring justice for victims of particularly devastating crimes that are committed against those least capable of protecting themselves. Please join me in welcoming the Honorable Mr. Dan Dow.
Good morning, Class 50. You are an impressive bunch, and I am so glad to be here to help you as you celebrate the success of the last 6 months that you've experienced here at Grizzly. General Cross, distinguished guests, faculty, family members, it really is a pleasure to be here to join you as we celebrate the many accomplishments that you, each and every one of you cadets, have made, and to acknowledge the challenges that you've overcome. When you arrived here back in January, some of you may have been anxious. You may have been wondering if coming to Grizzly Youth Academy was a good idea. You then, I think immediately, probably once you got off the buses or got lined up with your fellow cadets, you experienced a lot of changes from the way of life back home. I'm sure you got up early, you bunked in close quarters, you had a rigorous daily schedule. Someone else told you where to be, when to be there, and what was expected of you. Some of you, I'm sure, were in great physical condition before you got here, but others, perhaps not so much. Some of you may have been worried, thinking that all the physical requirements would be too demanding. But today, as you are now Grizzly graduates, I know that each of you are in the top physical shape of your lifetime. You've mastered Grizzly's 8 core competencies, including academic excellence, health and hygiene, job skills, leadership and followership, life coping skills, physical fitness, responsible citizenship, and service to the community. But I recognize that you didn't have to be here for these past 6 months. I've read the application requirements on the website, and the very first requirement on that list is that you volunteer for this program. Some of you might have been highly encouraged, but each of you volunteered for this program. You couldn't be forced by your parents, by your teacher, by your guardians, by your school, or even a judge to be here, or anyone else. It was you that volunteered to leave your neighborhood. It was you that volunteered to leave your neighborhood, leave your families, and perhaps do the most difficult thing that you've ever done before, and something that many, if not most of your friends would not have volunteered to do. And now, because of what you have done, you know that you can achieve any future goal that you set for yourself if you apply what you've learned while you're here at Grizzly. You've now successfully met all the requirements for graduation, and I am very proud of each of you. And you now have earned the right to be very proud of yourself and your fellow Grizzlies in Class 50. So now that you're here at graduation day, what's next? What's your future going to be like? Some of you may already know exactly what you want to do next and already have a plan to make that happen. And some of you may not have a plan yet. You're not certain of what you want to do with your life or what kind of career to pursue or how to do it. Either way, that's okay. You don't have to have your life all figured out right now in order to have a great future. Even though planning is important and very helpful, you don't need a perfect plan. But I believe that you will be successful if you take advantage of opportunities and open doors that are in front of you. Let me give you an example from my past. When I graduated from high school, I'm old, it was 35 years ago, I thought I had an idea of what I wanted to do, but my life took a number of unexpected turns. I went to college at 18 and realized that it was very expensive to live on my own and go to school because I had no help from my parents who were quite poor and could not afford to help me. I had to take out student loans and work part-time jobs while I was in school that freshman year, and I didn't believe I could keep going and finish, and I didn't have any idea how I would pay off those loans. But God placed in my path two older students who became mentors of mine. They were probably 4 to 5, maybe 6 years older than me. They had already done some other things before going to college. Their names are Kurt Lear and Jeff Jones. They were fun to be around. They treated me like their peer, even though I was younger. They were physically fit and mentally tough, and they were very optimistic about their future. They also had a strong faith in God that was genuine, and they encouraged me to do the same. And because they didn't just talk the talk, but they walked the walk, I respected and looked up to them. Well, they began to tell me, as I told them how difficult it was to pay for school, they began to tell me how they were paying for college. They had joined the Army National Guard years earlier and had gone to basic training, and they served one weekend every month, and in exchange, they received a salary and they earned money for college. And they wore a cool Army uniform and got to shoot rifles. They began to encourage me to consider joining the Army too. They said, "You'll grow up. You'll get stronger and more physically fit. You'll learn new skills. You'll get to travel. And the Army will help you pay for college." I had never thought of joining the Army or any branch of the military. And frankly, I wasn't sure if I could get through the rigors of basic training and meet the physical fitness demands. But these guys who I respected assured me that I could do it, and that if I did, I would be a better person for it, and more doors would open for me in the future. After they introduced me to an Army recruiter, I quickly decided to join the Army National Guard. So after only 1 year in college, where I didn't get very good grades, I worked for the summer and then went to basic training in the fall. Not only was I able to get through basic training, but I quickly developed a love for the Army, and I was proud to be a soldier. The Army told me what was required for success, and I did those things, and surprisingly, I succeeded at those. I loved the Army so much that I volunteered for active duty instead of going back to college. They assigned me a new job that brought me to Monterey, California for training. I learned a new language, Korean, and then I was stationed to live in Korea for a year. While I was there, the Army paid for me to continue my college education and make progress towards my degree. After 4 years in the Army, I applied for what they called a green to gold scholarship to become an officer and finish my college. But the Army had a mix-up with my paperwork that made me miss a deadline, and I was not approved for that program. So my plan ended up not going the way I had wanted it to or had expected it to. So now I didn't know what to do. I was out of the Army with no job, but my uncle from California called and said that he was looking to hire someone to work for his construction company in Fremont, California. So an open door came and I followed that opportunity. I didn't feel that that job was a good fit for me long term, so I stopped working for him and went back to college at Cal State Hayward full-time, and then I worked part-time at Home Depot. And I was able to use the Army GI Bill education benefits to pay for my college expenses. While in college, I got a job in a software company because I had a security clearance from the Army, and this software company needed people with security clearances to work for the government. Then my good friend, who was working at a computer manufacturer, thought I'd be good at computer sales. And so I applied and got the job working for this computer company and became successful at sales. Then I finished my degree when I was 29 years old and was offered a bigger, better job for a different computer company that paid more. The stock market was was doing well and growing, and all of the computer companies were doing very well, including mine. And then suddenly in 2000, the stock market crashed, and all the computer companies were struggling and laying people off from their jobs. I knew at that point that it would be hard to sell computers in that market, so I remembered my 5th grade dream to be a lawyer one day. Even though I never had met a lawyer, I had an interest. So I talked to my wife, and we agreed that I should apply to law school. By this time, I was 30. It would be expensive, so I rejoined the Army National Guard so I could have some income and more college benefits. I started law school in August 2001, and 1 month later, our country was attacked by terrorists on September 11th. I continued my classes, but I was completely distracted by the war in Afghanistan and the preparation for war in Iraq. Law school was harder than any school that I had ever done before, and my grades severely suffered. After that 1 year, my grades were so bad that they put me on probation. If I didn't get my grades up, I'd be kicked out of law school, I would never graduate or become a lawyer. Well, I was worried, and I didn't know if I would make it. And in my 2nd year of law school, on February 17th, 2003, I got a phone call from my Army sergeant. She said, "Sergeant Dow, you're being deployed to the sandbox." That means Iraq or Afghanistan. "And you have 24 hours to have your bags packed and report to Los Angeles." So I had to stop law school and switch gears in the middle of my 2nd year. The Army ended up sending my company to Kosovo instead of Iraq, and it was a good deployment. That year overseas helped me do a better job when I returned, because I had now done my part for our country since the attacks of September 11th, and I was able to finally focus on my law school studies. I brought my grades up and successfully got off probation, graduating in May of 2005 and taking the bar exam that July. It was the hardest exam I'd ever taken in my life. It's 3 days long. And 4 months later, after waiting, I found out that I had passed on the first try. My first job was working as a deputy DA in Riverside County, and after 2 years, I was hired here in San Luis Obispo County. But then a couple years later, in 2010, the Army deployed me, this time to Iraq, for a 1-year deployment while I was sitting here and working as a prosecutor. In 2013, my boss at the time announced that he would retire, and this presented an opportunity to be a candidate in the election to become the next district attorney in charge of the office with over 100 employees. I decided to pursue this opportunity, and in June of 2014, the voters of our county elected me to be the district attorney. I love my community. I love my job serving and hopefully protecting the community and helping victims of crime and seeking justice. You might be wondering, why are you telling me all of this? Well, it was to give you an example from my life that hopefully will show you that you can succeed in life even without a perfect plan. And when things don't go the way that you expect them to go, if you keep a positive attitude and you look for the open doors and opportunities that are in front of you, even when you think you might fail and you don't see a way forward, look for the opportunities that are around you. There just might be a blessing in the moment that you don't see until after you've gone through that situation. So when I look back at my life, I see a road with many twists and turns. It was not perfectly planned by me, but it did lead me right where I am today. I'm thankful for my two friends, Kurt Lear and Jeff Jones, for suggesting that I join the Army. That helped me set on a new path that I would never have otherwise been on. And that path ultimately led to where I am today. You are now on a path of success because you have successfully completed a great challenge at the Grizzly Youth Academy. And I want to encourage you in closing to do 3 things after you leave here. First of all, be thankful for whatever happened in your life that led for you to come to the Grizzly Youth Academy. Because if those things hadn't happened, you would not be the person that you are sitting in your chair today. Secondly, remember the 8 core components that you've mastered while here and incorporate them into your life. Continue to be a lifelong learner. Make healthy life choices. Seek new skills. Be a positive influencer as both a leader and a follower in other people's lives. Continue to grow in your life coping skills, stay physically fit, and be a responsible citizen while you're serving others in whatever community that you live. And finally, the third thing, share with other people in your circle of influence about how this experience at Grizzly has shaped who you are today and made you a better person. Your own story of success, there's 160 different stories of success that you represent, and your story is already an inspiration to me and to your family and to your instructors and faculty here. I'm confident that your story will also be an inspiration to your friends back home and future friends that you haven't met yet. So when you remember what you have accomplished over these last 6 months, I want you to take pride in who you have become. The memories that you have that you've made here will continue to motivate and inspire you to meet any future challenge that comes into your path. And the path to success and happiness might have unplanned twists and turns. Enjoy the journey. Class number 50, may God bless and keep you and protect you and guide you. And I can't wait to see the success that each one of you has in the future.